welcome to episode number 2 of the Fitness Business Life podcast. I am here today again with my co-host Steve O'Clark.
How's it going?
And today we are going to be talking about anxiety and different forms of it. Now, this is the Fitness Business Life podcast, and the reason why we're kind of starting with anxiety is because we can experience it in fitness, business, and life. And that's largely what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about our own experiences, myself coming from sporting anxiety. I come from a boxing background, amateur boxing. And a lot of fighters would experience this, because first of all, I should sort of say what anxiety is. So the thing is that most people kind of, get confused between fear and anxiety. People kind of, get mixed up with the two. And the thing is that anxiety is fear of fear itself, right? So it's anticipation of future pain when people experience this. And the thing is, especially for fighters, is quite often your anticipation of future pain is like, it's legit.
It's literal.
It's literal, do you know what I mean? And we question whether it's rational or whether it's completely irrational. In those cases, I suppose it largely depends. Now, we're going to talk today about let's say we'll start with fitness in general, right? So if you haven't listened to episode number 1, go back and listen to it, and you'll see sort of where we're coming from on the Fitness Business Life podcast. Steve-O told a bit about his story, about how he got into fitness and how he became a coach. And I suppose we should kind of start with that, because what we find is working in the gym environment, I coach other fitness professionals. Steve-O, you're coaching a lot of our clients on the gym floor. Is that anxiousness affects a lot of people.
I think it affects more people than you'd probably realise that it does. And even to many different degrees. Like I wouldn't consider myself an anxious person on a day-to-day basis, but definitely, like you were saying, whenever I started to lose weight and started to go to the gym, I was very anxious about how I looked and how other people were perceiving me coming into the gym and stuff like that. So it can be intimidating.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things one of the main things that I try and do for every client, doesn't matter if they're an anxious person or not, is to try and make them feel comfortable and try and make sure that hour or however long the session is going to last is the most enjoyable hour of their day. So I don't have to go into that kind of depth with the person one-on-one about how anxious they may be. Just knowing that I'm kind of putting them at ease in a situation that could be fueled by anxiety for them.
Yeah. So I suppose people can experience different forms of anxiety. We've got actual physical anxiety where people come short of breathing and all this, and it affects people in different ways. Purely just emotional anxiety, sporting anxiety, entrepreneurial anxiety, because like what we were sort of talking about in the first episode, is that there's going to be entrepreneurs listening to this here. There's going to be a lot of people in fitness and in fitness business listening to it. And if you're watching this here on YouTube, you're going to see that we are sitting in my facility. And again, if you go back and listen to episode number 1, where we started in a small loft above a bar, and going through that sort of journey, right? There's no one gets away from it. It doesn't matter if you're at the very top of the industry or if you're just starting out, you're going to experience entrepreneurial anxiety on the way. And when I was opening this facility, like, I was pulling my hair most days. You're again going back to it. You're conjuring up the worst what if situations that truly you don't really know are going to arise. And I mean, the thing is that, again, going back to the difference between fear and anxiety, quite often that sort of anxiety, especially entrepreneurial, can be irrational. Whereas, like, when I was, when I was boxing, when I was experiencing it as a fighter, it was probably rational to a certain extent, to where you are getting into the ring. And I remember how I used to get anxious every time before I fought. I would have taken a warm shower, like, an hour and a half. It was kind of like a small ritual that I had, and I remember always standing in the shower and anticipating the worst possible what if situations. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I break my hand? Like, just all of these things going through your head that may not ever arise. And the reality is that and I think this goes right across the board, is as a fighter, and I use this here because I can relate to it. As a fighter, you do conjure up these worst possible what if situations, but then when it actually comes down to it and the bell rings, you don't feel a thing. And it's just like any other night of sparring. It's you don't hear anyone outside the ring. You actually don't really realize that people are watching you. You don't realize you're being judged, and you just approach it in a very sort of methodical way. And after you've taken action and the fight's over, you get out of the ring, and it's the most amazing feeling. And generally, even when you lost, it's almost like a sense of relief. Shit, it's over. That sort of feeling of anxiousness is over, and whether you beat or you win, it's kind of enjoyable, which is, I suppose, in a way, it's kind of like people are like, you enjoy getting hit, but it is kind of enjoyable. And relating that to business or fitness, quite often people conjure up these thoughts of what if, and purely by just going and taking action and getting over, just going and doing the thing that you're putting off, leaves you with the feeling on the other side of that of, holy shit, I'm glad I done that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, did you find that, let's say first day you decided to, walk into the gym, like, what was going through your head? And again, we sort of spoke about this in episode number 1, where I can't really relate to that, because a sort of boxing gym, like I always say to people, is probably it's one of the most intimidating environments you will ever walk into. Even though normally every fighter in there is a really nice people, they're lovely people, but it's a very intimidating environment. So I never really, once you're taken from an environment like that and going into anywhere else, it's kind of easy.
Yeah. So
I never really had that sort of anxiousness. So, like, what was that like for you, taking that first step?
The main thing that was going through my head, I spoke about it in episode 1, was that I wanted to do it because I had a very strong reason why I wanted to do it. So, like I was saying before, I was expecting a baby, I was expecting a son, and I remember what was going on in my head was, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, for this reason. So yes, there was anxiety anytime I, lifted my hands above my head, my belly came out the bottom of my t-shirt, and I was worried about what people were saying, or anyone having a laugh in the corner of the gym. I was thinking, they're laughing about me and stuff like that there. Whenever you realise that they're not, you know what I mean, you just kind of get on with it, and the only thing that should be in your head is the reason that you're doing it. And once that's settled, and once it's strong enough, and it needs to genuinely be a good enough reason, I think. The anxiety, kind of like what you said, whenever you finish a fight, it's just gone, and it's almost like a moment of clarity, if you want to call it that. Yeah. So like whenever you were saying you get into the gym and you kind of don't even know that you're being judged, that you don't know that other people are watching you or stuff like that. Whenever you go into the gym and you're maybe trying to lose a bit of weight or whatever, you just concentrate on why you're doing it, what you've got to do in that hour or whatever it is that you do, and then if you really, really just want to, you can just leave.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you're not stuck there. You know, what I mean, that's one of the things I try to make the sessions as a coach now, make them more enjoyable, to make people not feel like they want to leave. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
To make it enjoyable, so that they can leave if they want to. They're starting to feel anxious, or at least they just got the job done. But to make the experience overall a positive thing, rather than something that's constantly negative on their head.
Yeah.
Because if it constantly becomes that, you're never going to stick to it, no matter what it is. If it's boxing, if it's the gym, if it's going out for a run in the park, if it's whatever.
Yeah, I get that. So I suppose, like, so far, two of the biggest takeaways, and that's actually a really good one. I always just kind of say to people, just take action. Just my mentor Craig Valentine has this saying where he's like, action beats anxiety. Just take action. And you're right there, because sometimes people may not necessarily know why they're taking action, so it kind of holds them back that wee touch. So I suppose, find out why you're doing it, and then take action on it, and that's going to get you over whatever the problem is. Yeah.
I mean, I remember a conversation we had before where you would look out the window from the bar and look at this building and say, I want to open a gym in that building.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, that's got to be somewhere in the back of your head through the years leading up to where we are now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, the reason is there. The reason that you want to, like if you're talking about fitness business, or like getting people, getting in front of a camera and talking to clients, or approaching people, on the gym floor and talking to them, becoming an approachable person.
It
takes a bit of work, but you've got to do that. If that's in the back of your head that you want to get to a certain place, you got to do all those wee steps in the middle to get there.
100%. And I suppose, I've been doing video now for a while, and I used to get like super anxious about doing that. What is the person on the other side of this video going to think? We're probably, like, we put this podcast off a few times now, and like episode 1 was very much, ready, fire, aim. We just kind of, let's go and do this here. And again, going back to it, it's probably because now we have a legitimate reason why we want to get this out there, because we know a lot of people can benefit from the message that we're putting out there. And yeah, I love that there, actually. So again, if you're watching this here on YouTube, and we spoke about it in episode 1, the very building that we're sitting in now, the bar where I first opened up our sort of first gym is directly across the road from us. And yeah, a decade ago, I sat in it and looked at this very building and said that, one day I wanted to open up a gym in there. I wanted to open up an academy. I didn't know exactly where it was going to lead to. This was over a decade ago now, so I didn't know all of the steps that were going to get me to that final outcome. And there has been periods along the way where I've just been like, Jesus, this is hard work. You feel like quitting. You feel like just saying, is it all worth it? And I can, genuinely say, like, being, again, going back to my sporting background, there are times as a fighter, you sit down and you question, is it all worth it? Why am I doing this here? And like, I generally, like, the hard times and all, I don't regret the losses as a fighter. I don't regret any of it, because along the way, a great friend of mine says that you don't know exactly where you're going, but if you look back, and he kind of relates it to in the olden days when they didn't have electricity, they kind of used to light up like a wee lantern as you're in the streets to light up the streets at night. He always relates it to that. He says that you don't know where you're going, but if you look back, you know where you've been, and you're able to then connect the dots along the way. And I guess, having the sort of experiences that we've had over the last load of years now, I'm just kind of connecting the dots. So I don't really know, again, where this is going to lead. I'm not as anxious about it as I was on the journey, because I now have that experience behind me, and I'm like, right, okay, whatever things, whatever challenging things arise in the future, I'm in a pretty comfortable position that I can now deal with it, head on, and I've got a clear reason why, like you said, and I'm able just to say, having that experience, let's just go and take action on this thing.
Yeah, I think as well because you've been doing it for a long time. It's some people might be listening and thinking, well, that's all right for you to say. Like you've got this, Jim, or you've been doing these videos or whatever. But I mean, how many people are scrolling through your social media feed to your very first video where it's not so great? You know what I mean? Or have seen the 3 videos that you deleted before you actually posted that one and stuff like. So it's like a lot of people just need to kind of think, the steps need to be taken, and they're going to be rough, but they'll get easier as they go. You're still going to be taking the same sorts of steps.
Yeah.
It's going to be rough at the start, but you've got to just keep going and going and going. It's kind of like anything, practicing, like riding a bike or whatever. You're going to fall off it a couple of times. You're going to jump back on and keep going.
People see the highlight reel.
Yeah.
Is like I remember your sort of transformation. So like Steve-O here, like how much weight did you lose?
6 stone, something like that.
Like people seen the before, how you were in your red check shirt, and then they seen you after all spray tanned up and the leanest you'd ever been, and they were like, you know what, it's alright for that dude, like it's okay for him, but they didn't actually see the sort of steps along the way. They didn't see them lanterns light up along the way. They didn't see you struggling to light up each one along the way. So again, it's far from easy the whole way. But you're right. If you were to go and do that again, having the information that you've got now, it
would be a hell of a lot easier because I've been there already and stuff. And especially on the social media thing where people do see all these people, who are doing great things, be it in fitness or whatever, like, geez, I wish I could just be like that person. But that person has been through what you're trying to get yourself through. They've just come out the other side of it a couple more times than you have at the minute.
They've just taken action. 100%. So Steve-O, we're gonna talk about sort of emotional anxiety a wee bit, because we have quite a few clients of ours now that come into the gym and actually do suffer from that, which I don't like. It's not something that we've ever really suffered from. So like in terms of helping someone like this here, or let's say there's a listener on here and they sort of need help with that there, like what would your sort of go-to be there? Would it be like meditation, like breathing, reading?
I mean, I think for most people, whether you're an anxious person or not, meditation's probably a good idea. Do you know what I mean? It's probably not going to do you any harm, and if it doesn't do you any harm, then I suppose the only thing that leaves is the potential for it to do some good. If it doesn't change anything, then you're in the exact same position you're in at the minute. So I think meditation is a good thing, even if it just relaxes you to go to sleep. So I would use Headspace app at night time. Honestly, I hear about 2 minutes of it, of 45 minutes worth, and within 2 minutes I'm asleep. But it's enough to make me go to sleep. And there are people who would sit and relax for 10 minutes. I know that you used to do it in the morning, where you would play the Headspace app in your car before coming in and starting your day's work. And it kind of just gets you into a bit more of a peaceful mindset instead of being constantly rushing or constantly on the go, especially from such early hours in the morning when you're running a gym. You're here from 5:30 in the morning. Sometimes right through to 10 o'clock in the evening before you're.
But you do that now.
I do that now. I got that short straw. But in terms of breathing as well, like the only experience that I would have whenever I start feeling a wee bit fearful of things or a bit nervous of things, I've learned it very well from singing, breathing techniques, and I used to do a bit of acting and stuff, so I have a degree in acting and drama, and breathing's a big part of that, and you can imagine the two of those can be very nervous situations to be in, to remember lines, to remember words of songs, to even perform in front of people.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I would relate that there to, getting into the ring and fighting as well, because you have people watching you, judging you, and you probably conjure up the worst possible what if scenarios in your head.
Yeah.
What if I fall? What if what if I fuck up a line? What if I do this? It's
Yeah.
probably the same.
Yeah. The only thing that I've really noticed in a physical sense is your breathing starts to come from up into your chest, and that's no good, because you're going to be starting to like shallow breathing and stuff. And when you start shallow breathing, your body isn't probably going to work efficiently.
Yeah.
If it's not working efficiently, you're pumping blood around you at a faster rate than you want to be, especially at a time when you're feeling anxious and nervous. Those two things aren't going to go well together. So, breathing deep into the stomach, into the diaphragm, slowing it down. Your heart rate is doing one thing because of your nerves, or like if you want to talk about it in terms of fitness and being in the gym, sometimes people get a bit worked up because they're out of breath. And one thing I say to them is like, do the opposite of your heart rate. You've just finished 20 burpees, your heart rate is going through the roof because you've just jumped up and down 20 times. Ignore what your heart's doing and breathe the opposite way. So big breathe in, nice slow breath out and stuff. Try and counteract what your heart is doing.
Yeah, because I suppose for the most part we work with a lot of sort of busy professionals, and they're constantly in this sort of sympathetic state. They're constantly relying on their nerves to get them through the day, and we try our best to get them in this sort of parasympathetic state to where they're kind of, even though they're coming in and they're exerting force and they're expending some energy, we still want them enjoying the session, but also this is their time to relax and get away from the stresses of life, because again, like we train a lot of high performing professionals as well, and a lot of the time they're coming in and they're stressed as well. And I suppose this podcast in a way is aimed at helping those people too. And I suppose the breathing, I love that there, and it's diaphragmatic breathing. Don't let the shoulders rise, and just take your time. Even pre and post session.
Yeah.
If you focus on it there, it would be a good time to do that.
Yeah, and it doesn't even need to be in a time when you're nervous or anxious, or even when you're out of breath. Through exercise, it can help relax you just in general. So we're talking about the Headspace app, and one of the things that it will talk to you about is your breathing. Holding your breath for 2 seconds, exhaling for 6 seconds, breathing in for 4 seconds, and that just kind of calms you down a wee bit better.
Makes you aware.
Makes you aware you're breathing, and makes you aware that, holy shit, my shoulders are up into my ears. I'm so tense.
Yeah.
Just to relax the chest and the shoulders down, and once you do that, I think your body language changes how you feel. So once your shoulders drop down, you start breathing into the stomach a wee bit more, you'll feel a bit more relaxed, even just in the change of your posture, never mind the breathing that you're doing.
Love it. So I suppose going back to what we kind of spoke about at the start, because you sort of spoke a wee bit about fear, right? And people do get confused between fear and anxiety, right? Now, fear can be good in a way. It's even what fear is perception of danger, and that's an emotion that comes naturally to us because it's one that has ensured that we've stayed on this planet. Because if we didn't have that perception of fear, then we would have got eaten as a species a long time ago. So fear in a way can be a good thing, and I suppose if we're talking about rational anxiety, as a fighter, that's more fear. I would say that that's more of a fear, because even though it's anticipation of future pain, your anticipation is right. At some stage you are going. So I suppose that small bit of fear is that's completely rational, because your senses are going to be heightened. That small bit of nerves is a good thing. So I suppose it's putting it in the right context at the right time. Because like you were saying, you were an actor. I would do like speaking and do videos, and it's in that sort of state where I would say it's irrational, because even though, let's say you do mess up a line, like what is the worst thing that can possibly happen?
Yeah.
Let's say, a business decision doesn't go your way, someone says no, right? That's pretty much it. Like, if we're talking about real true fear, being chased by a fucking lion through the Serengeti is real true fear. About to get into a fist fight with another person, it's kind of real true fear. But when we're talking about fitness, like, it's it's kind of, it's unwarranted. In that case, I would say, just go and take action, and I promise you'll feel better afterwards. Even in business, I kind of have to tell myself all the time, look, you've been in far worse situations, dude. Like, this is easy in comparison to the situations you've been in. Just go and take action, and like, what is the worst thing that can actually happen?
Yeah, there's a specific example whenever I was doing a show that I can think of, and one of the best bits of advice that the director gave me at the time was, it was a very serious performance, and I was like, I'm going to mess this line up, and everyone's going to laugh at me. And he goes, if they laugh, they're enjoying themselves. So it doesn't really matter if you make them laugh.
Yeah.
Like, all right, it didn't go well, but they're still enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
And you know what they'll do? They'll go home and they'll talk about it.
It's entertainment either way.
Either way.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it.
And as soon as he said that, it was kind of like, you know what, you're right. All right, they're gonna laugh at me and they giggle. But if you're doing public speaking or whatever, everyone who's sitting there has that same fear.
Mm.
If they were to get up and do the talk, they'd be thinking to themselves, what if I say something funny, or if I say the wrong word or whatever. Everyone's afraid of that kind of thing, but it's like you're saying, the rational versus irrational. What is the worst thing that is going to happen whenever you mess that line up? People have a wee bit of a giggle and you move on from it.
Yeah, 100%. So we're going to leave it here today, and you can look forward to weekly future episodes, and we'd love to have some input from you as to who you would like us to interview on the podcast, what you would like to hear from future episodes as well. And also, if you enjoyed this episode, I want you to give us a 5-star rating and share it with one of your friends.
Good.
Peace out.
See you later.